Hello everyone, welcome to Liam's Lyceum. I'm your host Liam, aka Hembar. Today I'll be doing my weekly updates. This is Liam's Leapings 19 update for November the 26th, 2022. Okay, so I guess I will just quickly go over things I read this week. I will start with the top of my stack, which, is actually the last thing I read. I read the next story in the Faded and Serkoman stories. This one didn't have Serkoman in it. He's actually only appeared in half of the story so far, and he's not nearly as important as Faded. Faded is the main character. This one is really cool, though. It actually takes place during the Second Crusade in Palestine. So this one is a fictional, as far as I'm aware, death of the Count of Toulouse and how Eleanor of Aquitaine is involved in that. So it's pretty cool. I really liked it actually a lot. It might be my favorite of the batch, but I say that just about every time. So, and then I read a story in Amazons, which has this cool Michael Whalen cover. This came out in 78, 9 maybe. It's edited by Jessica Amanda Salmonson, or Salmonson. I have no clue how to say that, to be honest. But Salmonson, that sounds funny though. And it has the first professional fantasy sale of a story by an author named Megan Lindholm, who is more famously known as Robin Hobb. This inspired me to do a video that I'll probably be filming on Sunday and will come out Wednesday, about bloat in fantasy, and it was inspired by Robin Hobb because just to preface, I've only read Assassin's Apprentice, and because it was so slow, I haven't gone and read Royal Assassin, even though I read Assassin's Apprentice 4 years ago, because I don't want to waste my time, essentially. But I really liked Bones for Duloth, so obviously I know Lindholm is a good writer. But I think the problem, at least with epic fantasy, and it's modern epic fantasy even, is the problem as well. The fact that this was written in the 70s, you can tell that the problem hadn't really happened yet, hadn't settled, and that is people do not know how to be brief in their writing of fantasy. Anyway, so I'll talk about that more in a different video because that's a rant incoming, essentially. But it was a good story. And then I read By This Axe I Rule from Robert E. Howard's Cole. Freaking awesome, gave me chills, super good story. You should read it. I'll just leave it at that. So, and then I read the Nano Knights of Mars from A Merchant Orient and Other Tales by David Wiley. This one is about, it's like Arthurian but sci-fi on Mars, obviously. So it was a lot more kind of military sci-fi and a lot more cursing and stuff than I was expecting, but it was really good. I liked it, so excited to continue with the next story in this collection at some point. So then I finished, is it Bright Star, I believe is what it's called? My bookmark's still on here, get that out of here. I finished Old Moon publishing, so Bright Star is by a person named Mob. It's their publishing name, their byline. I was pretty interesting. It is a little macabre. It's got some poetry. It's definitely got some Germanic imagery going on. Pretty dark. I liked it though. It's pretty cool. So yeah, Old Moon. Issue 2 still hasn't come out, but any day now. I'm starting reading this tomorrow. I don't know why I have it in this pile, but yeah, I'm going to start reading that tomorrow. I did finish reading the White Wolf's Son by Michael Moorcock. This one was pretty interesting. It was pretty good. Not as good as book 1 in the Dream Quest trilogy, but better than book 2 in my opinion. And I'm still slowly making my way through Michael Stackpole's Dark Souls novel. I've had very little motivation to read novels. For example, I was listening to The White Wolf's Son. One other novel I have read is the Conan novel and the novel I'm reading from internship. As far as books I got, I guess, as I got this cool book, The Long Ships, by Franz G. Bankston? I'm not really sure. It's pretty thick. My dad got it for me, actually. It's pretty cool looking. It's like a 10th century or so Viking story, essentially. Going from, looks like Sweden, Denmark, England, Ireland, Spain, looks like Asturia, and elsewhere. It seems like a pretty grand adventure, and to be honest, before my dad mentioned it, I think it goes east too. Before my dad mentioned it, I'd never heard of it. Sounds right up my alley though. It sounds pretty cool. So, looking forward to this historical adventure. And then I'm very, very close to finishing Maduk, the book 3 in the Leoness trilogy, and this book is awesome. Okay, this is really cool. It's a lot less of all over the place, like the first 2 of the Leoness books were. I already have my review for the first one out. My second one will go out at some point in the future, probably in the new year. But Maduk, this one won the World Fantasy Award, I think, for Best Novel whenever it was released. But man, Jack Vance, guys, like this is pretty cool stuff, and this is actually deals a lot with the Holy Grail, which is what connects it really to the Arthurian legend that we are more familiar with. So I'm not quite done with it yet. I am very close though. Man, yeah, it's got really long chapters actually. That's one thing I could critique it about, but it's pretty stinking great. You gotta read Leoness trilogy, guys. You gotta read Jack Vance if you haven't. This is gonna be my 7th novel I've read by Vance once I finish it. So, and then I gotta find something else to read by him. I already have a few things in mind, and I already have them on my shelf. But I guess I went through everything I read pretty quickly. No, I got a few more short stories actually. Let's see, that I don't have physical copies of. Let me check my list here. So I also read The Rogue and the Rageling by Jason Ray Carney and The Cromcast Chronicle 2. They only do one of these every year. It's about December, so the third one's about to come out. It's pretty cool. The Rogue is like an immortal. It reminds me somewhat of the Black Company because his name is the Rogue, right? But and then I also read The Weave in the Void, Chapter 30, the novel being serialized, written by T.W. Anderson. Over on their Patreon, you can go read the first 3 chapters for free. First 3, I don't know, first few, whatever, for free. I did a video on it a few months ago about the serialization. It was nice to read Chapter 30. I think next week, Chapter 31 should come out. And then I listened to The Flame in the Bottle by Howard Andrew Jones, which came out in Heroic Fantasy Quarterly 54, which just released on Heroic Fantasy Quarterly's website. You can go listen to that, read that free. And I also read Through Stranger Lands by Chase Terry Fulmar, which is from Witch House Magazine of Cosmic Horror, issue 1. I've been trying to go through and read just about everything that Fulmar has, just because I like his style. This is definitely different because it's not sword and sorcery. It's contemporary horror, something exactly as it kind of sounds, but it was pretty good. I liked it. And that's what I read. As far as writing went, this weekend, shortly after I made my last update, I finished out a story. Okay, what happened is I wrote a story for an anthology, and I had my character Renata in it, and someone suggested I submit that to a Marion Press's upcoming anthology of the epilogue of the Immortals or something like that. And I was like, that's not a bad idea, and that story actually would probably fit. But I already had it in mind for something I wrote it for, this other anthology. And so I was like, but I have this other Renata story that is almost done. Like, it was actually one I had as an idea for this first anthology, and I was like, no, this isn't like sword and sorcery enough. It's more of just a thought piece, just someone thinking. And I wanted the story for the first anthology to be more sword and sorcery to represent that. And so I went and I finished this very short, I submitted to Marion Press. And then I also wrote another story with my character Arian. This is the 4th one. None of them are published. But this one, right now it's called Choice of Chains. So different story. Arian's a fun character to write, to say the least. So he does some what I always hope is entertaining stuff, but interesting stuff. So, but it was kind of a piece that I didn't really originally have like much in mind, because the thing I'm trying to do with Arian is like kind of make it like a fix-up, where it's just a bunch of short stories and they do fit in order, but there's the stories I have in mind, right? So like the first story I wrote of him doesn't have a story that takes place right after or right before, but I could easily connect it. Like I could write a story before, I could write a story after. There is a story that takes place shortly after, but there's like another story that takes place in between those two stories, that, like I said, is not written. And then, so that second story, though, does have a story that takes place right after that one. And then the one I just wrote this week is a story that takes place right after that one. So those are all in order. And the reason I wrote this one, though, to explain kind of how my character gets where I wanted him to be at a start of a story I'd had planned for this character for a while. It's actually probably one of the first stories I had planned for Arian. So, anyways, that's my random thoughts that, whoever cares. But, yeah, what is, excuse me, happy Thanksgiving for the folks in the U.S. We celebrated that yesterday when I'm recording this. So Thursday. And now my voice is shot. I need to go drink some water. But let me know what you did this week. Let me know what you're planning on doing. Maybe as we get into the end of November and beginning of December. I'm looking forward to watching Willow next week. So on Disney. But anyways, this is Leapings. I will catch you next time.